Back here quickly on the Chip Shot Football Podcast to go all the way back to Thanksgiving. There was 3 games on last Thursday, right? Because of Thanksgiving, we usually had the typical Lions game, the typical Dallas Cowboys game, and also the Packers game also being on Thanksgiving. And all of the home teams won. For some surprise, I'm sure there was I heard a lot of people say that the home teams were usually at a disadvantage because of all the extra stuff going around with Thanksgiving and hosting and things like that. I kind of thought it was true, but apparently not with all the home teams winning. So there were 3 games. Obviously, we're not going to go into depth with each one of them just for time's sake. So just looking through all of them quickly and just talking about some things we took away from them, starting off with the Chicago and Lions game. We kind of talked about it a little bit in the previous segment, but the Lions end up winning 23-20 at home over the Chicago Bears, but it wasn't without a little bit of a scare in the second half, obviously, with 3 second half touchdowns by Caleb Williams to lead that comeback. The Bears defense only allowing 7 points in the second half compared to the 16 they gave up in the first half. They obviously improved in that department, and I think, again, just Thomas Brown doing a great job with this offense, getting them in positions to succeed, to convert a lot of big third downs. Caleb made a lot of impressive plays, but also, it wasn't without them getting a little bit of help with that pass interference call that really wasn't. But regardless of all of that, I think you could take away more positives in a pretty optimistic way, just because obviously you lose the game in a very awful way, but considering the fact that you did fire Matt Eberflus and, Thomas Brown continues to do a good job, and you were like just minutes away, plays away from at least really having a great chance to be one of the best teams in the NFL. You got to take these moral victories, especially where the Chicago Bears are right now. It's baby steps for them, right? It's falling down a lot along the way, especially this season, the way it's, played out right now. But they're going to get better. I like what the Bears have done already. I like the job Ryan Poles has done. It's just about, obviously, finding the right voice, the right leadership in that locker room. Again, easier said than done, right? But it's one of the biggest decisions that they're going to have to make. So learning from this, just trying to improve on it is going to be huge for them going forward. Then the game that followed this one was the Cowboys and Giants game. Dallas wins its first game at home this season. The Cowboys defense really stole the show in this one. They sacked Drew Lock 6 times and forced 2 turnovers as well. The passing game really wasn't there for Dallas, but they relied on the running game, surprisingly. That's probably the first time we've said that about the Cowboys, but Rico Dowdle had 112 yards and 1 touchdown, while the Giants are still winless against NFC East opponents. They are, 0-4 now against the NFC East. They lost twice to the Commanders, they lost already to the Eagles, they've lost twice to the Cowboys as well. So they're actually 0-5 against their divisional opponents. Just sloppy, basically, overall from the Giants. I feel like I constantly kept seeing Brian Daboll just shaking his head in disgust on the sideline and just not being pleased at all with what he was seeing on the field. They sort of made it close there towards the end, but Dallas did a good job of overall never, at least to me, not while I was watching it, never really feeling like the Giants were thinking this is where the Giants turn it around. It never really felt like that. And it's a credit to the Cowboys, for everything that's been said about them. Their defense played very well. I got to get their linebacker's name right. Their linebacker returned a interception off of Drew Lock in this game, so I have to at least get his name right. Where is it? Where is his name? DeMarvion Overshown. DeMarvion Overshown has really, I think if anything you're going to take positive away from this season is the fact that he has really made a name for himself. He is really, everywhere you look, every tackle that's made, every play that's usually being made, for a loss or in favor of the Cowboys defense, he has something to do with it. He looks like a like a massive safety playing linebacker for the Cowboys, and he's done a fantastic job just this season of really making an impact in all of these games. It's obviously harder to do when you have a losing record and you have the injuries and everything like that, but he continues to show up each and every game, so I have to mention him as, something that has been done very nicely by the Dallas Cowboys this season. Micah making an impact in this game as well. And, getting Brandon Cooks back was obviously a big help for them as well. But all of that to say that there's no way, even still, that this is any sort of late comeback, late playoff push or anything like that. Both of these teams are done. Both of these teams are going to be done playing football in the next 5 to 6 weeks. There's no way I watch either of these teams past the month of December without things going catastrophically wrong for somebody else. So, yeah, this was a nice game for Dallas. Maybe I could even say that they're not too far away from, getting back to being a competitive team like I usually thought before. But, 2024 is done. 2024 is done for them. They're going to finish it off strong, hopefully, for their sake. But it's nothing like crazy, like they're going to make the playoffs. So that's really what we took away from that game. And just the last one overall was the Green Bay and Miami game. The Packers ended up winning this game 30-17, and they got off to a fast start because Green Bay immediately just shell-shocked the Dolphins in the cold, leading 24-3 at halftime. And it was actually a muff punt by the Dolphins to start off this game where or at least I thought, I'm like, all right, this game could go very bad. If the first opportunity you get, you stop you stop the Packers from doing anything on their first drive, they punt the ball back to you, and you're going to go ahead and fumble and look like you're nervous, like you're not prepared for the cold, for the ball being slick. You fumble the ball away, the Packers recover it, of course, and they score a touchdown, and from that point on, you invigorated life into the Packers, right? Where this game could have been slow, methodical, pretty defensive in the first half. You just gave away a touchdown, and now the Packers, have that chip off of their shoulder. Now all the pressure's on you, knowing that all the eyes are on you because of the cold weather narrative, trying to make a late playoff push. All these sort of things that the Dolphins were already, kind of dealing with, it just mounted to double, triple that because of the fact that they had this blunder to start the game. And it just really felt like they got bullied in this game. Sort of like San Francisco last night, where the warm weather teams are slipping, or everything just looks like it's just all discombobulated. Like they have really, like they're just rattled. It just looks like they're rattled out there. The weather's really getting to them, and they're just getting pushed around. Whereas the Packers and the Bills last night were just completely in their element, obviously. We saw the Packers dominate the run game and just beat up the Dolphins each and every time. They sacked Tua 5 times and didn't allow Achane or Raheem Mostert to really impact the game at all. And also for the Packers, it was another good sign for them to see Jordan Love without another turnover. It's back-to-back games now that he hasn't had a turnover, obviously, so we're seeing some improvement there at least, and everyone's contributing, basically, for the Packers, right? Josh Jacobs had 9 carries, and you had 3 different receivers with 4 receptions or more, so they're really spreading the ball around. It's not just all on Jordan Love, or it's not just all on Josh Jacobs, so that's something else I really like about them. Their defense is extremely underrated. I've mentioned Xavier McKinney already a lot this year. And they just have, again, guys that, just basically get it. They get what they're trying to do. It's no sort of like self-serving, agendas or anything like that. The Packers are also another sneaky team that's really getting better as the season goes along. And unfortunately now, again, for the Miami Dolphins, now they're in 9th place in the playoff race, and now they're sitting at 5-7. So, is their season over after a loss like that? When they had the opportunity to put to rest all of these silly narratives about the weather, to have a big win in primetime on Thanksgiving, the fact that they failed at both of those things, I would say yes, their season is over, because they have that silly narrative about them playing the cold, continue to haunt them, continue to have people poke fun at them for it. And, in the AFC, I think the Broncos, it's not like the NFC where teams can kind of jump each other and kind of get in there. I think with the AFC, you already have like a good idea that those 7 teams are going to be in the playoffs, because the Broncos, it doesn't look like they're going to give up that lead. So the fact that they have 2 games ahead of the Colts and the Dolphins now, I don't see them really dropping like 3 games or 2 games or something like that. So yeah, I would say the Dolphins season is probably over after that loss. They needed to be perfect, and unfortunately for them, they weren't able to do that. So those were all the games on Thanksgiving. Some pretty good ones, a lot of takeaways, a lot of fascinating, developments in the playoff races. So we had to mention that, but not before we get to our next break, before we get into our final segment talking about Monday Night Football tonight between the Cleveland Browns and the Denver Broncos. We just finished talking a little bit about the Broncos. They play tonight against a very tough defense in the Cleveland Browns. We're going to go through all of that, the predictions, the matchups, and all of that when we return here shortly.